Hi, I'm Healthy Emmie, and I'm a nutritionist that eats bread. Guys, stop it. Stop. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you my homemade bread recipe. It is only 2 ingredients and it doesn't require a bread maker, any kneading, or anything crazy like that. And at the end of the video, I'm going to settle the debate on whether or not bread makes you fat and tell you why I eat it. Before we get started, let me know in the comments your favorite way to have bread. I like it in a good veggie sandwich or with a nice warm soup. Let me know your favorite why. All right, let's do it. So I'm starting out here with a Pyrex bowl and I have 1.5 cups of warm water. You don't want the water to be too hot or it's gonna kill the yeast. You can put in about 1.5 cups of water, throw it in the microwave for about 30 to 40 seconds. You don't want the water to go above 110 degrees, but I don't have a thermometer, so I'm just sort of guessing. Then I'm going to take this instant dry yeast. You can get the little packets or you can get a big one of these. I will link it below. You can get it on Amazon. And I'm gonna add 2¼ teaspoons. So here's 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, and 1/4. Now I'm just gonna whisk this all together until it dissolves. Normal bread recipes are going to call for salt, but I'm not gonna add any salt to this one. You absolutely can if you want to, about 1/2 teaspoon. Now it's time to add the flour. I am going to go with a whole wheat flour. You could use an all-purpose flour, you could use a white flour, but I prefer to use organic whole wheat flour. When it comes to wheat is very heavily sprayed with glyphosate, and this is the same thing as Roundup. So if you can, the price difference really is not that different for the organic, so I usually get the organic. I'm not a snob when it comes to organic fruits and vegetables, but if I'm making my own homemade bread, I may as well get the organic. The whole wheat is going to have a different taste from white, so see what you like best. So now I'm gonna add 3¼ cup of flour. Now I'm gonna let the dough rise. You need to let it rise for about 2 to 3 hours. I'm going to let it rise overnight. I'm just gonna put the towel over it and let it sit out overnight. By the way, if you don't know who I am, hi, I'm Healthy Emmie. I'm a nutritionist and the creator of the Slim on Starch program, where you work with me as well as a mindset coach and a nutrition coach to lose weight on a plant-based diet. All right, so it is the next morning, and as you can see, the dough has risen. It has doubled in size. It is nice and high now, taking up the entire bowl. If you need to let this set any longer, you can put it in the fridge. It will start to taste more sourdoughy for about 5 to 7 days. You'd want to put an airtight container on it, but this is ready to go. So I'm going to take some parchment paper. I'm just going to take a little bit of flour and put it onto the parchment paper. And then we're going to take the dough and put it onto the parchment paper. It'll be nice and sticky, but I want to form it into a loaf. So I'm just going to go like this, and I'm just going to flip it so that I can make it a loaf. So now I'm going to preheat my oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to take my Dutch oven and put it into the oven. Once the oven hits 450 degrees, I'm going to set the timer for 20 minutes. And then once 20 minutes is over, I'm going to take out the Dutch oven. Then I'm just going to take the parchment paper and the unbaked loaf and put it directly into the Dutch oven with the top on and set the timer for 35 minutes. Then after 35 minutes, I'm just taking the lid off and letting it cook for another 5 minutes. So I've given the bread some time to cool down, and how beautiful does this look? It looks like something you would get from a bakery, and you made it at home all by yourself. So I've let it cool down a bit, and now I'm gonna slice it up and then I'm going to put it into the freezer. It's a lot easier if you slice it and then put it into the freezer as opposed to putting it into the freezer and then slicing it. But I think I'm going to bring this along on vacation with my mom in a few days. So I'm going to slice some up. I'll have some now, and then I'll bring the rest for us to have. Now let's settle the debate. Does this make you fat? Well, let's consider what is fat. Fat is stored energy. So when the body receives too much energy, energy that it doesn't need, it says, we don't need all of this. We're going to store some of it for later. And what gets stored for later is fat. Let me give you a little metaphor here with Healthy Dad. Healthy Dad is preparing for a natural disaster. He will go to the grocery store, and if something is on sale, he will buy 600 boxes of bow tie pasta and put it in the cabinet because it was on sale. So he is taking all of the pasta that comes in and saying, I don't need all of this right now, so I'm going to put one box into the cupboard, and then I'm going to take 59 boxes and I'm going to put them into the basement because they were on sale. I bought them now. I don't need them now. I'm going to store them away. This is what the body does when the body receives too much energy. If you are eating more calories are energy, than your body needs, it's going to store some of it and it's going to store it as fat. So there is no one food in and of itself that is going to make you fat. So we can't say bread makes you fat. What usually tends to happen is when individuals are eating bread, they're having butter on the bread, they're having cheese on the bread, they're having meat on the bread, and these are all very high calorie foods that are causing them to eat more calories and more energy than their body needs. So the bread in and of itself is not the problem. It's that individual's caloric intake is just too high. Let me show you this graphic from Forks Over Knives that I love that shows us the different stomachs and what the stomachs look like when they're filled with certain foods. So if you are going to fill your stomach up, you want to have the majority of what you're eating being starches, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, fruits, and not having the things that often go on bread. So bread is not the problem here. The problem is that people are eating a diet that is too rich in calories, too calorically dense because of the incorporation of processed foods and animal products, meat, cheese, dairy, etc. The majority of what I eat is whole plant foods. I eat a ton of vegetables. I love fruit. I love whole grains. I love wet starches, rice, beans, oatmeal, corn. I eat vegetables up the wazoo. So if I make some delicious homemade bread, I can incorporate that into my daily routine because it doesn't cause me to eat too much overall. It's a beautiful balance between very low calorie vegetables and then something that's a little bit more calorically dense, which is bread. Additionally, the carbs in bread don't readily turn to fat. The process of turning carbs into fat is something that humans do not readily do. We're not very good at turning carbs into fat. We're really good at turning fat into fat, but turning carbs into fat is not something that we do. So if you want to enjoy some bread, make sure that you're having an abundance of vegetables and fruits and those lower calorie foods so that a little bit of bread isn't going to do any harm. And it's absolutely delicious. I find bread is one of my favorite foods. I find it to be so satisfying to have a nice slice of bread that I have made myself with these two ingredients. I don't add any salt, I don't add any oil or butter or sugar, and I have it alongside a beautiful veggie soup, or I have it with vegetables and I'll put some avocado on top, and it beautifully balances my diet with an average calorie density that is still quite low. If you made it to this point of the video, comment soup, because what I'm about to do is heat up some soup and have that with my bread. I love you, honeys, and I'll see you in my next one.